So I had a dream that I killed Matt Damon. I know you're not supposed to tell people about your dreams. I won't get into too much of it, but I dreamt that I killed Matt Damon, and it was upsetting. It's always upsetting when you dream that you've killed someone, which I don't do often. I don't know if I've ever dreamed of killing anybody. I like to think I don't have that in me, unless circumstances are incredibly dire. It's like self-defense or something, but in this dream, I just killed Matt Damon. I shot Matt Damon. For no reason. Like no discernible or no reason that I can recall from the dream. So I woke up and was a little bit rattled by it. Just kind of an uneasy feeling upon waking. And also a little bit incredulous. Like, did I really just dream that I shot Matt Damon? For no reason?
What the fuck?
No cause? Just cold-blooded homicide? And interestingly, I was with Ben Laurie in my dream. Some of you may know Ben. He's an author. He's been on this show multiple times, and he's a friend of mine here in Los Angeles. And he was with me in the dream when I killed Matt Damon. So later that morning, I woke up and got started with my day. I shook off the dream and just kind of pressed on, as one does. And later that morning, I texted Ben and I said, quote, "Had a dream that I shot Matt Damon and you were with me." And he responded, "Was I surprised or was I in on it?" And I said, "You took off." Because Ben did take off in the dream. He didn't stick around. Once I killed Matt Damon, he was sort of gone. So he said, "Seems wise." Meaning wise that he took off. And then I said, "The last few minutes of the dream was just me in this room holding this gun thinking, oh my God, I killed Matt Damon." And then Ben said, "Had he done something to deserve it?" And I said, "Not really. I just took him out." It's just all very odd. Of all people, why Matt Damon? I guess dreams never make sense. And what happens in dreams typically doesn't make a whole lot of sense, though, people can claim to be able to decode these things. You can Google it, and I'm sure there's going to be a litany of explanations. What it means when you kill Matt Damon in your dream. But something that comes to mind, or something that came to mind as I was sort of reflecting on the dream and why it happened, is the fact that I had seen recently Matt Damon on one of my screens. I don't even know what it was. Was it TV? Was it, Twitter, like on my phone somehow? But I had seen Matt Damon in an interview like many years ago. I think it was like some sort of archival footage of him talking to a reporter and getting mad at the reporter for the nature of her question. Like, I think he found it like dumb and offensive. And what I noted at the time when I was watching the interview is the anger that flashed across his face, and there's this expression that I think most people who have seen Matt Damon in movies can probably recognize. It's like the Matt Damon pissed off expression, like something he does with his mouth and his eyes. And it's honestly pretty unsettling. Like, I think there's some rage. I mean, there's rage in us all, but there's something about Matt Damon's anger face that unsettles me a little bit and makes me wonder what it's like to be around him if he's actually really pissed off. I'm imagining it's unpleasant, though it's unpleasant to be around anybody who's angry, usually. So maybe that is why he appeared in my dream and I ended him. And speaking of male rage, or just weird, anger emanating off of somebody, I was walking my dog, Twiggy, the other day, as I do. I was hiking with her up in the hills here in Los Angeles. And there was a family coming towards me. It was a father and his 4 kids, a couple of whom were little. They were under the age of 6, probably. And they asked if they could pet my dog. And I, of course, said, sure, yeah, you can pet my dog. So I stopped, and the kids started petting Twiggy, and they were talking with me, asking about her. What's her name? Where did you get her? Just the basics. And the father and another child, I think. So I think there were 3 kids, and it was the dad and the eldest child were about 20 yards away on the trail. They were up the trail a bit. And so I'm standing there talking to these kids, and they're petting the dog, and the dad is looking on, monitoring me. And I feel a little bit self-conscious, like I'm the guy on the trail with the dog, but he doesn't know me, so he's trying to see if I'm creepy in any way. But I have children, so I'm used to talking to kids, and I'm not going to say no to a child who asks, if they can pet my dog. Unless, of course, the dog is somehow aggressive towards children, which Twiggy is not. So I'm talking to these kids, and I'm kind of asking them questions, and do you like dogs or something? I forget what I even said, but at one point, the little boy that I was talking to said, we used to have a dog, but then my mom took him away. And I was like, what? And then the dad started being like, come on, kids, let's go. As the kids started to talk about their mother, the father interjected and suddenly wanted to end the conversation. This little boy is trying to explain it to me, that the mom moved away and took the dog or something. I don't know what happened, but it was a little bit strange. And the father, looking on, suddenly got tense, and there was this flash of anger. And I don't know if it was directed toward me or the kid. He just wanted to extract himself from this dialogue. So the whole thing ended abruptly. And then today, just this morning, I was out walking with Twiggy, and I'm kind of coming around a bend, and there's an older woman, 2 older women, probably in their 60s, hiking towards me. And one of them just freaks out, telling me she's terrified of dogs, which, some people are terrified of dogs. Clearly they've had a bad experience. But I should make note of the fact that Twiggy was not doing anything to incite this terror. She was literally at my heel and wagging her tail or whatever she was doing, but she was not charging this woman. There was no threat. But the trail was narrow, and I was coming towards them, and so I think this woman maybe felt trapped. So she starts retreating and kind of panicking and shouting, I'm scared of dogs, I'm scared of dogs. And I'm like, okay, I'll hold her close, whatever you need me to do. I accommodated this woman's fear. But there was also a part of me that's come on, grow up. If the dog's coming at you, I get it. Or if the dog is somehow like losing its control, like losing control of itself. But you're 60 years old. You should be able to assess these things. And then another thing that I've been seeing on the trail recently that fascinates me. I've been seeing this for years, to be honest. People do this all the time in Los Angeles. And, I used to live in Colorado. They didn't do it there, at least when I lived there. Part of it, I think, is the weather. It's colder. But there are people, and usually older people, I might add, people kind of over the age of 60 walking barefoot on like mountain trails. And it always strikes me. It's like, wow, you're hiking barefoot on these rocky trails. But I never really think about it beyond that. I just kind of note it when I see it, and I'm like, oh, there's another person barefoot. It's often these older couples. They hike barefoot together. I don't know if this is a Los Angeles thing. I don't know what's going on. But I Googled it finally because I was like, okay, maybe there's some sort of incredible benefit to be derived from hiking barefoot that I'm just not aware of. And these people are actually geniuses. And apparently it's called earthing, where you're in direct bodily contact with the earth. And there's something about the earth's like electromagnetic charge or something. There are electrons in the earth that then have a more direct route to your body. And it can help to balance you or improve your immunity or your inner energy equilibrium or something. And I've kind of heard of that. I've heard of earthing. And, I don't have any problem with it. Especially if you're in grass, like you're in a grassy field or you're at the beach. Like, of course, earthing is great. It feels good. It does feel good to walk around on the earth or on the grass, barefoot or in the sand if it's not too hot. But rocky trails, like dusty, muddy, rocky mountain trails, and you're walking around barefoot? I don't get that. So I explored further online just to see if I could find anything of interest in something that might convince me to try this. And there is a list online of pros and cons, like the pros and cons of hiking barefoot. And the pros were increased sensory input, improved balance, and proprioception. I then had to Google proprioception because I didn't know what it meant. But it's essentially body awareness. Proprioception is the sense of self-movement, force, and body position, mediated by proprioceptors, mechanosensory neurons. And then from there, it's the other pros are stronger feet, which I guess makes sense. But do you really need strong feet? How strong do your feet have to be? And by the way, I've never even heard this terminology applied to feet. Have you ever heard of somebody say, I have weak feet? I have strong muscular feet. I get that you want feet that are functional and operative. You don't want feet problems. I get that. But strong feet? And hiking barefoot improves your natural gait, which, okay, I get that. It improves circulation. All right. And there's less impact on the body. It's safer for joints if you're walking barefoot, because if you're hiking barefoot, on rocky trails going up and down, you do have to slow down. You know, these people are always moving slowly, which maybe is the point. Maybe that's what it is. It's like a mindfulness thing, where if you take off your shoes and socks and force yourself to really pay attention. But even that, and I'm into that, but even that, I'm like, really? Like, that's where we're at? You have to take, just seems like a bit much. So the cons of, can you tell it's a slow week for me? Like, to do this monologue, I'm going to have to just talk about random bullshit, because last week, somebody, if you listen to last week's monologue, I might have witnessed somebody die. It was very dramatic. There was a very dramatic narrative for me to relate to you on this podcast and these monologues. But that kind of thing is not going to happen every week. Thank God. So the cons of barefoot hiking in nature are obviously increased risk of injury. Splinters, cuts, thorns, insect bites. Which, of course, like, do you really want, like, what's the point? You're out there just cutting your feet up? It's got to be so uncomfortable. And then poor traction is apparently a con, but I'm not sure if I buy that. I actually think you'd have really good traction barefoot. And then infection, if you cut your feet up and then they get infected because they're dirty. This is disgusting, is it not? Blisters, calluses, and yeah, it's filthy. You're in the dirt. I think that's something that I notice every time I see these people, is I'm just looking at them like, okay, so then do you go home and just wash? You have to wash your feet like really thoroughly, because your feet are just filthy and you're walking around. And I should note too that these are not typically hippies that I'm seeing. These are older people, often older couples. So I'm just trying to reckon, I guess, with that, trying to figure it out. I feel like there's so many of them that there must be something to it. And as many of you know, if you've listened to this show for any number of years, I am very susceptible to health and wellness trends. So I'm not at the point where I'm even remotely close to being ready to hike barefoot, but maybe someday I'll get there. And you know what? Like, just one last thought on, like, it's just occurring to me as I think about this. The dream about Matt Damon, where I killed Matt Damon in my dream. I think if you piece it together, there was this newsreel footage that I saw, not in my dream, but in my actual life, where I saw Matt Damon get angry at a reporter. And it made an impression on me, how his like rage face, his pissed off face, is very distinct and memorable and a little bit unnerving. And then Ben Laurie, my friend, the writer, showing up in the dream, that makes a certain sense, because Ben is sort of the antithesis of the Matt Damon rage expression, because Ben is very calm and he has this very sweet, soothing voice. Not that Ben does not have some male rage. I mean, I don't want to totally absolve Ben or make him seem like too warm and fuzzy. But if you know Ben, or if you can hear him on my show, he's very like low-key, relaxed, chill. And I think if I were to assess it, I would say that I'm someplace in the middle. Like, I'm in between Matt Damon rage face and Ben Laurie, sort of like Zen placidity. And so maybe like Matt Damon's appearance in the dream and then Ben Laurie's appearance in the dream, like if you start to think about it, like I killed Matt Damon because I was trying to get rid of my own male rage. And Ben, who symbolizes the lack of male rage, who symbolizes like control of oneself, he sort of vanished. Well, wait, that doesn't work though, because in killing Matt Damon, I was essentially exhibiting maybe the most intense form of rage. I don't know. I was thinking I had it. Like maybe I vanquished